Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we've got ourselves a figure that I have been greatly looking forward to. It is a brand new Recur release, as we've got their Dilophosaurus. And, you know, honestly, I'm a little sad when it comes to these newer Recur figures. They have been fantastic the entire way through. By far the best figures that they have released, and some of the best prehistoric figures in general that I've seen on the market anywhere. And it seems like they've kind of like dropped the dinosaur line a little bit lately. I don't know if like there's just some issues with the line, or if maybe the newer figures haven't sold as well as they were expecting, but it seems like, you know, this is the last round of figures they've even really revealed. Like, there has just been nothing else teased or anything for a little while now. I know there was a Carnotaurus and stuff, and like, I think a Giganotosaurus. Some really cool stuff that we had seen a ways back that was supposed to be coming, and I have not seen anything, you know, revealed from Recur in quite a little while now. So fingers crossed that they continue to move forward. If you happen to have any interest in the Recur figures, I highly recommend checking them out on like Amazon or something and just buying some of their newer ones to let them know that there is definitely still interest in these figures. Maybe I'm just looking too far into it, I don't know, but these figures are way too beautiful to ignore. And as you can see, this time we have the newer Dilophosaurus from Recur, and this looks, in my opinion, to be maybe the best Dilophosaurus on the market anywhere. You can see the packaging is pretty much the standard. My package got a little beat up. I did actually have to order this guy from AliExpress, so again, the packaging does tend to get beat up a bit because they usually just ship it in like a bubble mailer or something, but the figure usually does all right in transit, so we're going to go ahead, pop the box open, and check out this Dilophosaurus. So here is the brand new Recur Dilophosaurus, and wow, is this thing ever absolutely drop dead gorgeous here in person. Easily one of, if not the best Dilophosaurus figures in my collection, sculpt wise. Even the colors are actually really nice. I love the usage of the blues and everything, and they've done something on this figure that I feel like some of the others were kind of missing, and that is apply that sort of dark wash that you can see. My camera's apparently not going to let me show you, but it does have a nice dark wash. It's really subtle with its application, almost a little PNSO-like when it comes to just how smooth that dark wash is applied, but it just does so much when it comes to amping up the realism, just adding a little variation of color, just making it look more lifelike, which is definitely a huge plus for this one. I'm going to just readjust the camera slightly and then bring it in for a closer look. So starting here in the head sculpt, look at how gorgeous that head sculpt is. It is fantastic. You have some nice looking skin texture, really quite fine skin texture there down under the eye, but the scales become a little bit larger and more obvious as you move out toward the snout. We can see the nostrils. We can also see that slight hook in the jaw right there for the Dilophosaurus. We have the crest also really nicely sculpted. We have a good bit of variation of color here in the face, as we've got a nice light bluish tone there around the eye area that transitions to a brown as you lead further out into the snout. And then you have a really nice reddish tone, kind of like a red-orange as you move up into the crest with a dark wash. As we can obviously see, the mouth is nice and wide open here for the Dilophosaurus. We can see all of the teeth are sculpted individually. There's also a white tone of color for the teeth, and we have a reddish tone, kind of like a dark reddish tone. Focus, camera. Apparently it's not going to do that. For the inside of the mouth. Yeah, there we go. I was going to say maybe if I turn it sideways it'll get a better look, but really nice detail inside the mouth as well, like the entire way through. The tongue is sculpted beautifully, but just in general, the detail everywhere looks really good. And there's a little bit of a satin shine in there, and we can again see the teeth over here also look pretty nice as far as the sculpting and painting. The eyes also look really good. You can see the eyes are painted with like an orangish tone, but there's a black around it. There's also a black pupil and a nice gloss coat helping those eyes to shine quite realistically. You can also see the ear as you move back, and as we move up to the top of the Dilophosaurus, we start to pick up a darker bluish tone, as well as some ridges that run down along the back of the dinosaur, but then taper off off as you lead further down into the neck, and then they actually disappear for a little period of time right there. We have a nice white stripe that follows down through the side of the body, and then a lighter blue, pretty much like almost a blue-green, which is pretty similar in tone to what we see in the face, but a little bit different. As you lead down along the side of the neck, there are all sorts of skin wrinkles and creases and stuff as you lead down through the neck. We can also see some hanging skin here in the lower part of the throat, with some more ridges kind of hanging off of it. Those are painted with a dark brown and also again look quite nice. And I really like how you can see like that kind of curvature to the skin because of the turn in the neck. They did a really good job of matching up the movement of, you know, pretty much every area that coincides with that turn in the neck. And again, that dark wash continues to highlight all of the skin texture really nicely. As you move down, you could see variation of color in general, even with the lighter tones. Like you have this light greenish, like blue-green, with a lighter blue here, and then the blue kind of returns and runs down here into the arm, but then we return back to that kind of like blue-green, that lighter tone in the mid-stomach area, which looks really nice. You see even more of that as you move down into the arm. We can also make out the muscle definition, the elbow there on the back of the arm. As we move down into the hands, they do transition to kind of like a bluish-gray tone of color. The arms are held into the body in a fairly realistic way. The wrists are also correctly placed, and we do have a dark brownish tone for the claws of the Dilophosaurus. A little bit sloppy on that middle finger, but just a little bit for the most part. They're pretty nicely placed as far as the paintwork goes, and we as well have a nice gloss coat there on those claws. As we move to the underside, we can actually also see that dark wash again, as well as the very nice skin texture down here. Moving back up, you see those ridges start to pick up again in the back of the Dilophosaurus. We see more of that white stripe leading down, running over the hip bone. We can see the hip bone itself protruding through the skin a little bit there. The musculature of the leg looks really good, and again, some slight variation of color with different shades there as you move down of the blues and blue-greens. We can see the skin stretching off of the stomach right there because of the positioning of the leg, the kneecap in the front of the leg, the calf muscle there in the back, and a very nice transition down to that kind of grayish tone there for the foot. Again, the foot is very bird-like, like super bird-like, which I love. We can see the claws again sculpted pretty nicely, painted with that dark brown with a gloss coat, and yes, even the dew claws do have paintwork. And as we move back up into the tail, we lead out. That dark wash continues to shine the detail on this figure. Again, the paintwork looks pretty nice. We've got that stripe continuing to lead out here with the darker but yet somehow even more vibrant blues leading in, and as you can see, that white stripe leads all the way out there into the tail. We also see the ridges pick back up in a big way as you move further out through the course of the tail of the Dilophosaurus. It does have a pretty nice curve there as you lead along as well. If we take a look at the opposing side, again, obviously the head is turned away from us here. On this side, we can see the ear again as we move back, the very nicely painted eye, and then we move back here, we can see kind of like some tensing in the neck of the Dilophosaurus. Also, I now notice that darker bluish tone that is in that area of the skin of the throat, which looks really good. And then we move further back again throughout the course of the body. The arm is pretty much held in the same position on this side as it was on the first side, leading back into the stomach. The skin texture, again, absolutely, oh, my camera hates it, absolutely phenomenal. My camera just has issues with certain tones of color, and I don't know why. I really need to get a new camera at some point soon. But as you lead back, we can see the skin again stretching off of the stomach there, leading back into the thigh, the musculature of the thigh nicely defined. Again, the hip bone kind of protruding through the skin a little bit up there in the top of the leg, and then you move down again into that very nice, very bird-like foot sculpt. Both feet are kind of, one foot is completely planted on the ground. This foot looks like it's just picking up off of the ground, and the Dilophosaurus, almost because it is turning its head toward its left, almost looks like it's kind of in the process of making a left turn. And then again, you lead along with the really nice curvatures of the tail as you lead out. So that is by far one of the best Dilophosaurus figures. Again, maybe the best Dilophosaurus that I now have in my collection. It's also quite large, honestly. I wasn't expecting it to be as big as it is, so that's nice as well. For a size lengthwise from the snout to the tail, you are looking at about 12.5 inches, or about 32, or just shy of 32 centimeters. And then for a height, about 5.25 inches, or 13.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, There is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Dilophosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A human being next to our Recur Dilophosaurus, and you can definitely see next to these other figures here that this Dilophosaurus does have a pretty nice, pretty impressive size to it. If we bring in a standard Mattel Dilophosaurus next to the Recur version, you can very clearly see that the Recur has more size to it. When it comes to a Dilophosaurus that is of a very similar size, we have the Creative Beast Studio version. Again, this is the Cyberzoic Dilophosaurus, but the same sculpt as the Beasts of the Mesozoic version, almost, same size at the very least. And you can see that that version is just a little bit longer, I would say, and a little bit bigger than the Recur version, but just barely. We've also got the Howlong Good version of the Dilophosaurus, which is significantly smaller than the Recur release, as well as the classic Papo Dilophosaurus, which again is a lot smaller. Then we have a comparison next to the recently released Recur Stegosaurus, just to give you an idea of how much larger the Dilophosaurus is. And finally, a comparison next to the newer Recur Tyrannosaurus Rex, again giving you a good feel for just how large this Dilophosaurus is. I'm super happy, honestly, with the size of this figure. I think it's one of the nicest Dilophosaurus we've ever seen, and one of the larger versions I've seen in quite some time, besides like the Cyberzoic and Beasts of the Mesozoic versions. It's just nice to have a, larger version of this species when you get so many smaller ones like the Safari LTD, the Collect A, the Papo, the Howlong Good. They're all fairly small, so it is nice to have a larger version like this once in a while. And again, look at how beautiful these figures are. I'm just still so psyched with how good the newer Recur releases are. So this brand new Recur Dilophosaurus is far and away one of the best Dilophosaurus on the market. When it comes to like non-articulated versions and, trying to capture a more accurate attempt at a Dilophosaurus, this has got to be the best, or at the very least one of the best that you'll find out there anywhere. One could argue that whether this one or the Creative Beast Studio version is the better Dilophosaurus as far as more accurate versions go, but this, again, is just so beautiful. And I always love, I love articulated figures, don't get me wrong, but I also love stagnant, non-articulated models. I just think they always look so nice without the seams and stuff, so that is one thing that I just absolutely still adore about these type of figures. And again, when it comes to models like this, non-articulated figures, that's what made me fall back in love with collecting dinosaurs when it comes to like the Papo Tyrannosaurus that I had seen at a museum gift shop. So I still, again, just have such a soft spot for gorgeous models like this. And when it comes to Dilophosaurus, this is far and away one of the most striking I've ever seen. I love the sculpt. It is extremely highly detailed, very nicely done. The fine detail looks great. It's captured every ounce of movement perfectly. And on top of that, we have a really nice paint scheme for this. I love the blues used on this. It's not too often that you get blue dinosaurs, but for some reason, whenever we do, I just always really quite like it, and I think they've done an excellent job on the coloration and the actual application of the paint of this Dilophosaurus, as well as the usage of the dark wash, which I love. Again, I've been pretty much mentioning in all of the Recur reviews that I was hoping they'd start adding that dark wash in again, so I'm very happy to see that they have. So if you are interested in this, I will include a link in the description to where I purchased mine again on AliExpress, so check that link, grab it if you want it. It should hopefully be in stock on Amazon in the Recur store at some point in the near future. And like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.